So before I start, how many people have been able to finish their assignments? I only saw 2 submissions last time, so I know not check again because of my busy schedule and that. Please, unmute and talk. How many people have not done the assignment? Let me know first.
Yeah, I've done my assignment too.
I was even thinking, I don't know if I should talk about that now. If I should talk about that now, or I should just basically, maybe probably do some minor corrections and so on, and then all right. I hope you can see my screen. So yeah. Now today we will be talking about a couple of interesting things. All right. So I think in most cases, so we'll stop writing. Not really stop writing. Did I say stop writing command line application? No. So, but today people will start making sense now to a lot of persons. It shouldn't be just writing some boring command line application any longer. I think this is even when we will have to utilize PHP. I mean, should I say enjoy PHP more? Because I think after next week or thereabout, so we should start getting into framework basics where I'll have to introduce you to Laravel and some other random frameworks. But then, before then, I think I should be sure that you understand some couple of concepts. So we should talk about OOP and so on. Oh, we've not even talked about OOP. All right, fine. But then today, are we even talking about OOP today? I think that should be next class. So next class is on Monday. So on Monday, we'll likely start talking about OOP. This is supposed to be. So I'll just remove this for now. So today we will be talking about. We'll start with functions. I know we've not talked about. No. So today we'll start with arrays. I think most of us might have. We'll start with arrays in PHP, and then we will consider few array methods. Okay, we'll talk about few array methods. We'll consider few array methods, or should I say few most used array methods. And then the next one, so we will now talk about functions. Void and return type functions. This should be 3.1. So now the next one is 3.2. So we talk about functions with parameter. Function with parameters, and then we will now go into form handling. Yeah. Form, is it? I was saying we should talk about algorithm, but then no, we're not talking about algorithm. So we will treat functions as an algorithm topic. Okay. So meaning that we'll be doing a couple of things with in respect to algorithm with functions. Okay. I think next class, so I would likely talk about a bit about data structures. Then after that, so we look up on few things, and I think we look up on a few things, and after that, we do OP, and then talk about some complex things. So then I will now introduce you to superglovers. Superglobals, and the next one is we'll now start. What's it called? We'll start intro to form handling. Intro to form handling. All right, so these are the list of things we'll be talking about today. And yeah. So any question from last class before we start? So I'll assume there is no question from the last class. So we proceed. Okay. Kenneth, go on. Yeah, Kenneth, go on. Can't hear you.
A question, but I wanted to know if it was uploaded on YouTube. So I searched, I couldn't see it because I missed some part of it.
For the last class?
Yeah, the last class.
I think I'll get to the program manager on that. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll just get to the program manager. I think even when I searched YouTube last time, so I figured that they. Okay, so it will be uploaded soon, very soon, just very soon. So it will be uploaded. So we start. Kenneth, hope that has answered your question. Or do you have another question? Your hand is raised. All right, so we begin. So we start with an array. All right, so what is an array? Arrays are basically data structure, right? That allows data to go in, or should I say that contains data in just, or should I say that contains a set of data in respect to some operations. And most times, array has its own basic functions, and array has nodes. Okay, they do have their nodes. So they don't operate in any any principle. They don't operate in either of the LIFO or FIFO principle. That's the first in, first out, or last in, last out. It's not like the stack coding. Sorry, I think I'm having some network challenges or thereabouts. So let me just I think I should change my internet connections, and then probably that should be solved. Sorry about that. I think it's fine now. I hope it's fine now. So everybody can hear me now loud, and I think it's not breaking again. So we start. So we start with an array. So array is a data structure that accepts data. Uh, for Java, there is typed array. So for example, should I say strongly typed, not just Java, strongly typed languages like Java or C++. So array of strings contains only strings. Then array of integers contains only integers. All right. So arrays are just some data structure, okay, where you could think of a data structure like a data bucket. All right. So think of it like a database where things are stored. But then for the program, it only lasts just for an array. Anything that has to do with array, okay, has to do with just with the entire program execution context, okay? So meaning, yeah, if I have a script that has one array decrement, array declaration or array variable in there, okay, with some dummy dummy values or something. So now, if I probably maybe I mutate the value of that array variable, or I just mutate the value of those elements inside the array. If I rerun the script again, so automatically the array reinitiates. Okay, it's just like that very instance is being killed and everything we did dies. All right, and then next instance is a fresh instance. Okay. So, but then they provide a data structure pattern, all right, to your data. Now, what do I mean? So now, assuming where you have a data structure of names, so array, there are two different ways to declare an array in PHP. I think I did mention this the last time. The square bracket option and the actual array call. This is the square array declaration pattern. So I'll just replicate this. So now, if I print out this, so you see that they are both the same thing. So yeah, so I'll just execute this now. PHP index.php, and you can see these are both arrays. They now turn to them, key. Now there are two types of array, all right? Associative array and non-associative array. Now this is how an associative array looks like. Q1. But then in most cases, all arrays by default are associated by their index numbering, okay? Index numbering. So array index numbering starts from what? From 0, from greater or equals to, from 0 to infinity. All right? From 0 to whatever infinity or whatever value they have. So this is how I'll say element 1. You can also do this here. Key 1 element 1. So you see this. Now, if I intend to print either of these elements, so what I simply do is call the key because they're associative. The associative array. So I just call the key 1. Then next, the same thing too. Key 1. So you can see element 1 and element 1, all right? Almost the same. So this is because they are associative. Now, this is a non-associative array. You can see that undefined key, array key value 1, because they are not associative and they do not have those type of key. So I'll just change it back. So all associative array can be accessed by their index. Sorry, by their keys. Now, so accessing an array by their index does not affect if the array is a key value array or not. Now, what do I mean? So you can see, sorry. Oh, so it does affect, so if it is a key valued array or not. So now you see the key changes. The key does changes. So you see element 1 and element 2. Now there are various of array method. So example is the count. Then you must have seen where at some point where I did use the count. So the count counts how many elements that is present in an array. So you can see it's only one element that's present in this array. So you might have seen this when I did the what's it called, the demonstration on for loop if you were there in the class. Now element 2. So if I rerun this, you should be able to see that the length of the array increases. All right. Now the counts the length of an array. Okay, how many elements does an array has? All right. So simple notation. The length of an array is equals to the number of elements contained in the array. All right. If you are already familiar with JavaScript, so that's when you should get to know something like array.length. Okay, but then PHP to really determine if it is an array. Okay, oh sorry, the length of an array is to use the count. The count is a global helper function. Okay, that helps you to count numbers of elements in an array. Okay, so next we'll move out to there's some part, so I'll just leave it. I think this will now be under this because I intend to use this to introduce you to algorithm. So we'll skip out and then go to functions and then do few things in functions and then we'll come back to array methods on how we can use them. There are a couple of array methods. Anyway, for the purpose of the class, Steven, you don't know JavaScript. So why are you doing here? You're skipping primary school to be in secondary school. Steven. Anyway, it's fine. Now, yeah, I don't know, you might have known about functions already, but then let me just, explain. Functions are just a subset of a program, okay, that performs a specific task, okay. Some people call it a subprogram, all right, in a program, a subprogram in a program that performs what? A well-defined or a well-defined task, all right. For example, we have persons array. Um, And probably maybe the last question we do have SAS, okay? Now we can have a function, and to declare a function in PHP, you use this keyword function name. For you, Steven, it is required at least is the basics, okay? Is the basics. All right. So now after you're done, this is function, keyword function, and then the next is function name. And of course, the next is the parentheses, okay, indicating that something, and of course, your code here. So in this case, we are going to do what? We are going to, this function is only going to print out, this is the void function, okay? Now, why is it a void function? Because it does not return any value, all right, back to the callee. It does not return any function. Sorry, any value back to the callee. In some static type, or sorry, strictly type language. So you like Java, you should have something like probably something like void function shows the total number of persons. All right, this is for some strictly typed language, okay, like Java and so on and so forth. But then in PHP gives you that flexibility, all right, not to declare some or not to do some things the way the static languages do their things. All right. So in this case, this is a void function. So I might run into scope problem. I didn't want to explicitly talk about global and local variables, but then I think the need for me to talk about it has come. So, but then I think I don't even need this. Oh. So you see 6 there. Now, what is global? So you understand that, scoping in PHP has to do with, the visibility of elements, okay, within a scope, all right? For example, we have a global function, persons array, all right? And then we have a local function, show total, all right? Now you understand that this is a local variable and this is a global variable. A global variable is that variable that can be seen irrespective of its own position. No matter what I try to do, you will notice that this very variable can never be made visible here. So you can see that undefined variable, total number in what? In line 21, which is here. Now, this is because it is in the it is a local variable that is inaccessible outside of its scope. All right, local variable cannot be accessed outside of its scope, while global variable can be accessed outside of its scope. All right, example is this. How to access global variable in PHP? You use the super globals variable, all right? Use this global variable. So this global is a kind of super global, all right, that has all your global variables stored for you, right? In form of array. So now this is for This is for a function that does not return any type. Now let's look at the function that return type. So in this case, I will only just return I'll just return all the elements. I don't know whatever that is in the globals, but I'll just return globals. So you can see these are the number of global variables. So you have inside of global, you have some super globals like the post, all right, and you have get, and you have files, you have arg, you have env, you have request, you have server, and then you have elements inside the server, and so on and so forth. Custom mode, whatever. These are server related elements, okay? And then you have another global variable. So you under here, you can see you have persons array. You have persons array, all right, being showed right there. Now you can directly, instead of storing this in a variable, I can just print and then execute this function. Now look at this. So everything should still work very fine. So you can see, so this is here is from somewhere else. Numbers of persons. So everything should still work fine. Okay, sorry. I didn't even know what I did here. I thought I did. So now this is an example of typical example of what we call typical example of function with return type. All right. Another one we talk about is function that actually accepts parameters. Okay. Now, what are parameters? Parameters are simple dependencies you pass into functions. Okay, they are just dependencies you pass into a function. So I think we might not even be able to treat all this. Okay, we're almost done. So we are here. The next we talk about spark globals and then do bit of form handling, and then we are done. So now you might be meet with real life problem where you are tasked to solve problem like say now we are talking about functions with parameters. Okay, like this, the parameters are simple dependencies you pass into functions. Okay, so you may be tasked with cases where your employer asks you to develop a program to for you where your what's it called your program will need a calculator in several places. Let's say calculate average. Now you have an inventory. The admin calculates average. The user calculates average. The super admin calculates average. The sales personnel does what? Calculates average. Even the people like stock managers do calculate average. All right. So you may be, in many cases, you may be asked or you may be required to write an average calculator. It doesn't really make sense when you're writing average calculator and then putting it all around the whole scripts. Now this is where typical functions like usable function comes into play. Then you can now easily write a calculation function, but in this case we are just going to write a calculation that add function add, and of course add two numbers. So I'll say number A and number B and number B. Now, what is a parameter? So the parameter are simply dependencies passed on to this function. You can see where my dependency is. So my dependency is simply what? A and B, two numbers. So now this function does what does they does depend on this what? On this variable in order to carry their tasks correctly. So I will now just return. I can decide to return. I can just print. So you can see now, function with parameter, and the next is to call the function. So we should see 17 right there. Sorry, 14 right there. You can see function with parameter. Remember when I was trying to do the return? So simply you can do this. Return type function, okay, arch. So all it does now is just return. So you get it and store it in your in your variable. If I run the script, nothing is really going to happen. But then the script should work correctly. Now the next variable, so you can see it here. So you can see 14 is right there. So I'll just, now this is concatenation in PHP. In PHP, if you want to concatenate a thing, all right, concatenate 2 or 3 string, you use the dot connectors. You don't use plus. So I just concatenate this. See, it's 14, right? So that works fine. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about, that's all for functions. So the next thing we'll just be likely doing is array methods, right? Array have several methods in it. Array have various methods. Now we have push. We have in PHP, we have array methods like array map that takes up a callback, and of course that takes the actual array. So you can see there are hundreds of, or there are plenty of array methods. So I'll just pick few of them. And walk through them. And walk through them. So you can go and check on others. Now, the next thing I'll just pick is in array. So I don't know why I'm picking that. So, but I'll just pick it. So we will now talk about it. Now, we'll start from array map. So array map actually takes up a callback. So, and then the array is next. Now, this is how a callback looks like. Gmail address. So yeah. So it comes with return value. So now I can now inject the item into it. Okay. Can now add some other elements into the. So I may decide to mutate this. Array map is easily maps each array element. All right. This is always in the purpose of actually mutating every form of array, like sequentially in some ways, where you will have to not directly know the index of that element. All right. So it's just like where you have collection of person's Gmail and you want to add a specific field to all the index. So instead of you sitting down or probably doing a loop around to add all your specific field. So you can now easily do something like this. So I want to now transform every single element to every single element of the array into an array. All right. So I want to transform this array into a multi-dimensional array. All right. So where you have about one element into n number of elements. All right. And I want to add few things into it. So I want to add something like email, and of course, and I want to add item, because I know the item that is going to be returning will always be please, we have a single rule here. If you want to unmute, please. Please raise your hand if you want. That's if you want to ask a question. All right, so this should make much more sense. Now, if I run this, Gmail address should still stay the same because we have not actually assigned the mapped value into what? Into the array, all right? So what is actually happening now? Let me show you this. So on each iteration of the elements, all right, so this is what is happening. So this thing is happening. It prepares this, but it doesn't get it saved. Or in fact, let me save this in a variable so that you see how it looks like. All right, so our Gmail address does have a very fresh value. All right, so you see, oh, no, I don't know this. Oh, sorry. So this should work normal now. So now you see, this now has a sub element of element. So I can decide. So you see, each of the elements has the actual email and then the username. Okay. Now, this is how Gmail now works. How Gmail now is. So assuming we have email addresses now. So we'll leave Gmail address. We'll just replicate this to email address. Now we are tasked to okay. And we are asked to and we are then asked to separate only email addresses, all right, that has what's it called, that's only Yahoo email addresses and Gmail email addresses. We asked to filter this. So this is where we now use the filter. There are two ways to handle this. I'll show you the two ways, but then I'll demonstrate the filter using that method too, and I'll demonstrate it using array push as well. Then I think let me put this separately. Oh no. Let me start with the array filter. Now array filter should allow you, it accepts callback as well. So it accepts callback as well. But then And now you can pass a function into these callback functions as just normal. All right. So I can choose to have something like this. So I'll just only return all email address is has remember conditional. So we did talk about conditional at the right time. Now I may actually choose to not think about I don't know whatever it is, but then we remember that Yahoo do what? Yahoo do have different they do have different domain providers, .com, .co, or whatever. So we'll split this out too. Every mail does have what so let me just pull this out. Yeah. Then the next one is split this and then email, because we have one at the right side and then we're not splitting email at the right side is because we are splitting. So the first one is going to be what? It's going to be the first one is going to be the username. Then the second one is going to be the actual email. So which is one. So now we will be going with the actual. So the actual provider. So this should provide us with the actual provider. Yeah. So we done. So we run this and we should get all our Gmail. So I just print, let me print Yahoo. print R, and we'll call it Yahoo email. All right, and then I'll switch all other things off, all other print statements, I'll off this. And of course, every other thing is off. All right, so we run that now to see the new result. Okay, you can see we have osiris@yahoo.com. Now let's add another value. Probably, let me just add my name. Then with another provider, all right, at yahoo.uk, all right, and of course, so I'll ask someone else. Yahoo dot org, all right, and everything should still work fine. So you see, we have Celestine at yahoo.co, we have Emmanuel at yahoo.org. All right. Ademola, your question. Is it? Yeah, Ademola, your question. I can't hear you, Ademola. Please speak to your microphone. Ademola, please can you speak with the microphone? I cannot hear you. I cannot hear anything. Oh, thank you. So let me install this. This is from Steven. That was actually disturbing me, but then all right, so it's not disturbing again. So everything is fine. That's for extension issue. Ademola, I don't know why I cannot hear you. Can you type in your question? So type in your question in the chat, all right? So we'll address that. Okay, so that is for filter, all right? You know, filter just returns only some set of conditions, all right? So whatever you're returning has to be true, you know? When a certain provided condition is true and it returns only that condition that is being true. All right, so the next one. So while we're waiting for Ademola's question, so Ademola, I'm watching out for the chat. I'm on the chat, so waiting out for you. So once you're done, so the next I will pick is the array push. All right, so I'm still going to use this to separate, all right, all array. I'm still going to use it to sort all array, all right. We've talked about map, we've talked about filter. So the next I will talk about is the array push. So assuming I have all email address, so I'll comment this out for now, and then I'll just pick this and redeclare again. Okay, this you can see a large portion on you can see a large portion of the code on your screen. Quite frankly, you keep adding a lot of functions, but we are not sure what each line of code does. Oh, sorry. So I will still rephrase again. And of course, this class is ending. So I think I'll stop here, and then probably we'll go on from the next class, and then we can talk about a couple of things. So I need to explain this to everybody's understanding. This has been uninstalled. I don't know why it's coming back again. So I think before it totally goes off, so it does need me to start. All right, so now I do not have numerous functions. So you see where I had this. So I keep adding, if you look at my screen very well, so you should see that a lot of them are commented, all right? So now I did talk about email addresses where I did callback and I did some few things, all right? And of course, you know, this was able to print this. I will comment every other thing. Of course, array maps each iteration and then do a thing with that iteration. All right. So now look at this. So array map changes. Now this changes the item. All right. It is muted the item. It mutates the iteration. All right, and changes the value to something else or something of your choice. Okay. Now in this case, I change all of them to this, to an array containing what? An actual email and a username. All right. So now this is for array map. So next I will be talking about is I'll comment the array map thing, array map function sent section, or I think I should remove them so that it does not become problems to you. So I'll leave the email address. Okay. So now the next one we'll be talking about is the array filter. An array filter, we are going to filter all the emails associated with Yahoo, all Yahoo emails from Gmails. All right, I will write again Yahoo email. Ademola, ask your question again. Oh, okay. Now I'll slow it down. So I'll explain what callbacks are. All right. So I did talk about, so then now you have the whole portion of the code for yourself now to look at. Now look at the whole code now, or what it does. So we are trying to separate. We did talk, we are going to be considering what, now we will be considering what. Remember, we are trying to consider what? Array methods. Just few array methods. Which we have actually, we have talked about. All right, so the next one is array filter. I've already talked about this, but I'm going to use this to end the class. Then we can continue others. All right. So this is what we are trying to talk about. I told you PHP has some basics array methods. All right. So we have talked about array map, and now we are talking about array filter. Okay. Array filter returns a condition that is associated with what? With the actual, should I say, with the current iteration. For example, if I have username to be, let's say, Celestine, and I want to return only username that is Celestine, I just have to return that, ensure that I set condition for that matches that all username are what? Are Celestine. So all username are Celestine. In this case, now let me put this. In this case, I will tell you. So now we have email address, and we want to filter from list of this email address. We want to filter all the Yahoo emails, all right, out of the Gmail. In this case, we use what? Array filter to filter them out. So I will say Yahoo email. And now this takes up, remember when I talked about functions and function parameters. So this is just an inbuilt function within PHP. Now, what does this inbuilt function does? It takes up an array. Okay. Now, in this case, we want to filter what? We want to filter email address. We want email addresses, all right? And we want to filter them, all right? We want to filter them. Now, this is a callback. This allows a callback. This here is callback, and there are two ways for you to pass a callback into this thing. A callback is just your normal function where you have something like this. Remember, this is a function where you have function name, and maybe optional parameter. All right, maybe optional parameter. Okay, maybe optional parameter, or but then, all right, or it does not have. I told you, remember I talked about parameter. Oh, it's saying they don't understand the maps yet. Okay, now let me start from the map. Okay, array map, for example. Array maps does what? Does changes the content of the iteration and the way you do. All right, email addresses. So this is what the array map does. What? Email, and now we should have what? Email and usernames. All right, in each array, and usernames array. All right. So now the next one is your regular callback. Now a callback does what? Does in this case it does do what? It does. It's not all callbacks. Some callbacks doesn't accept parameter, but this one, you get the instance, although it's optional, you get the instance of the current iteration passed as what? As a parameter into your callback function. And you do what? In some cases, you can choose to return a value or just perform some action. But in this case, because I am going to transforming the array, I am going to do what? To return an actual array. So in this array, I should have username, which should be, in this case, I did say I just explode. Item. And of course, when we explode, we have the right side and the left side. So we are going to pick the left side, which is the 0. Now, the next one I want the actual email address. Which is the item. Okay. Now this is all for array map. What array map is, I perform an action. Okay. Now once I'm done performing the action, I do what? I return the action. Though it is optional, I return the action to be as, the mutated, to make the mutated value, okay, to look should I say, transform this initial address that I put here into something here, into another copy, okay, that is stored inside this place. Remember when I talked about functions that has return type? Now just look at this to be PHP, this thing to be a PHP functions that has parameters and what? And return types. Remember when if you do not know what explode does, let me print this out so that you can see. So I'll comment this out for now. Explode is the function in PHP that splits strings, all right, from a set of strings that splits strings in according to what a supplied middle. All right. For example, if I have about two sets of number, let me say maybe a float number, I want to get precision of the left hand side. All right, I only have to use explode and then use the dots as the separator, because each real number does have a separator. Once you separate it, you have the instances of the right hand side as an array value and the left hand side as an array value. In this case, I am splitting the arts. So I'll have what? The left hand side as the username and the right hand side as the actual email service provider. All right, see this? Let me show you. So because you are not using key valued array, so I'll take Steven. If I'm splitting the Steven string, I'll get what? I'll get this side and this other side. Remember, all other ones are what? Commented. So you see that the single string here now becomes an array with two values, with first Steven and then second my email provider. All right, the Steven's email provider, not my email provider, Steven's email provider. All right, now I'm using these two connections to do what? To get the username, which is always, this is always going to be your username, and this is going to be what? Your email provider, and return a fresh array with array of username and email address. So in this case, I did what? I did explode the same art and did what? And did take the first one, which is this index. You can see 0 index. This is going to be what? Steven. And then the next one is going to be what? Gmail. We don't need this Gmail, all right? We just need the username for now. So now what map does, it goes through all the whole iteration I think this will even be much more understandable. Now, let me show you this. I talked about function. So before this came in, let me just show you. Remember, so I'm going to name this function this. And this function is going to take what? It's going to take a string, an email address. So I'll just say email address. Okay, remember that when I split this email address, remember when I split this email address here, all right? When I splitted this email address, I did have what? An array key of number one, Steven. Then the second one, I do have what? gmail.com. I need the username here. That is why you can see username. So username now turns out to be what? Steven, in case of Steven. Now, if I pass all this stuff into this function, I will always get what? An array containing their username and what? Email address. Now, let me show you. So we have all right. So if I show you this, now if you look at this, I'll stop this. So I'll just comment this out. You can see I now have a new address, an associative array with what? Username Steven with the email address. Now, if I change this to be what? To be Ademola, all right? It will return me. Sorry, I have uninstalled the extension, but it's still not working. Now you can see that it has returned me a fresh array of what? Ademola and an array of what? Username, which is Ademola, and then the actual email address, which is the email address I did pass in, this email address here that I passed in. Now, array map. So I'll remove this. So now, if I turn on array map is going to pass me all the instances by all the iteration to perform this function on. Let me show you. It's telling me that it must be what? It must be it must be a function, a callback function. Instead, I pass what? I did pass must be okay, you didn't see what I passed. So in this case, I did pass string. Oh, sorry. So was intended to use with what? With filter. Yeah, exactly. Everything should work now fine. Now you see, first parameter is a callback function, which is this function here. I pass all the email addresses. If I run this, you should, oh, sorry. Now the new instance that is being returned here is all the array of all email address emails is going to be an array of email and usernames array. All right. So this is pretty much understandable. If I run this, let me clear my bash so you can see fine. Now, if I have this, you see a fresh new array of a mutation. Remember what I practiced that time where when you insert a string to it, what does happen? It changes that string to obtain what? The Steve, to username and what? And the email. And the string is what? It's always going to be a valid username. All right. So now the map on every iteration. Now, if you count this, we have about 10 elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we stop at as 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Now you see the first one is what? Steven. Now if you look at here, you can see Steven. The next one is what? Kenneth. Now the next iteration is what? Kenneth. The third iteration is who? The third iteration is Damilola. All right. Then the fourth iteration is what? Shegun. Now you understand. For the array method, each iteration does what? Does provide you with an instance of, the current iteration as string or as whatever data type that is in there. And you do what? You return your desired mutation format. It could be, I could just return only string. I could return an array. I could return an object. All right. Now, that returned object is stored as the current value, or should I say that return value is stored as the current value of that array. Practice these two things. So see how they work for yourself. So from there, you should be able to, get things to run. You should be able to understand a lot by your own self. The next one I will tell you to practice for the weekend is array push. So go and practice all PHP. In fact, practice as much PHP array methods as you can, all right? And then in the next class, we talk about it, and then probably you should be able to understand, because in the next class, we're even going into complex things. I was going to, introduce an algorithm to you, but it seems you are not even, plenty people does not even understand this. So for now, please go and, that's an assignment for you. So practice as much array methods as you can. Then in the next class, so we'll work on a few things, and then we'll pass on to the next thing. All right, is there any other question? Is there any other question? All right, so in the absence of any question, yeah, see you. So there is another class coming on, and I have to leave, and then possibly the next class can continue. All right, so do have a nice weekend. See you.